What is up, RotoGrinders? 2 hours nonstop MLB DFS conversation. It starts right now. Weather will be a big topic as far as tonight's slate. Not on our slate, but if you're concerned, you care about Pittsburgh and Detroit. If you're heading to the ballpark, turn around because that game was canceled. No Scoo-Ball today, Kyle. I was hoping he was on this slate to some degree, but we have another stuff we can talk about in just a second. But the other part of it is, and I just went ahead and dropped Kevin Roth's weather report in chat. Orange red in Cincinnati. To me, that feels like, straight red is like postponed. So that's about as postponed as like the presumption of postponement. I'm assuming that game was in play. We'll wait and see. That's an early start time. Roth will let us know. Both games in Chicago are orange-yellow, so we're not quite out of the weeds just yet. It's pretty dicey in a couple spots. Minnesota, Cincinnati being the most likely one to get 86th. Again, it's orange, red there. Green, yellow in Atlanta, yellow, green in Tampa. That's kind of standard with their pop-ups in Tampa. Same deal with Atlanta. Those pop-ups can always kind of sneak up and ruin some things, or at least with a delay. And then there's 2 games in Chicago. North side, south side, both are currently orange-yellow. We'll see when we get an update. Of course, Roth will be on in about an hour or so and give you a better update. It's going to be very hot tonight in Sacramento. Athletics taking on the Astros. The Astros, of course, broke the slate last night, putting up, 12, 13 runs or so. I think they banged out 5. Not necessarily the guys you thought they were going to go yard, but I think they had 5 homers last night. Tonight, it's Severino, a righty versus all those righties. Framber Valdez. It's going to be hot, and it's a small ballpark, but he keeps the ball on the ground, so how much does it really matter? It's myself, Kyle Murray. Happy Wednesday, Kyle. We had one dynasty continue last night with the Florida Panthers. We might have one continue or be started this evening with the OKC Thunder as far as the sports go on.
Tomorrow.
Oh, it is tomorrow. Yeah, you did a video today, but it was for tomorrow. That's correct. Yeah. People should know, by the way. That's why you hit the like button. That's why you subscribe. If you're playing NBA DFS, yourself, Chop, producer TJ, he was hosting. You guys did a good job holding it down, talking about tomorrow night's basketball. And a lot of it, of course, is pending at Halliburton, who may or may not play. And if he plays, how well is he going to play? Who knows? Yeah. Probably not great if Game 5 says anything, but we'll see. He's going to try his best, I assume, to get out there. But he wasn't. He was playing hurt, obviously. But, yeah. Oh, I won a movie bet with producer TJ. And I should say I was going to be kind of cruel and just kind of make him watch something, terrible. And I decided to be kind. TJ talked me into it. So,
I'm happy about this movie bets. Obviously, and I do want to shout out Derek Ringering's comment, Kyle, King of the Ladders, Murray, because Kyle has been absolutely crushing over at Scores and Odds the last couple days with the Pepio ladder, strikeout ladder, and what was the one yesterday, Kyle?
Oh, Will Warren.
That was the one I liked,
ladder, yeah. And so sweat-free, easy getting there in like 4 or 5 innings. So love to see it. But yeah, obviously would have liked to see the Oilers win, but luckily I'm not a big hockey guy, so I cheer for them. But then you don't really think about it afterwards. And so you were quite kind to me. I tried to remind you that I was, even though you didn't maybe think they were top tier, I was trying to offer some National Treasure movies, some Pirates of the Caribbean movies, high quality films to me. And so you picked one that I have seen once, but I was probably about 8, 10, maximum 12 years old. And so I remember what it's about, but not the intricacies. And when a movie is as good as is critically acclaimed as Good Will Hunting, you should know the intricacies. And so that's what you've assigned me. And I'm very excited to report back, because that's been one that's like every time I need a movie to watch, that's like right at the top of the list for like, okay, if we can't find anything new, let's watch this. Because I've been meaning to rewatch it and then just never get to it. And so I'm looking forward to finally prioritizing it.
Don't disappoint me, Kyle. Have you seen Good Will Hunting?
I have, yeah. I'm not a huge movie guy, but that is one that I have seen. Yeah.
Okay. No pressure. I should preface it like that. Either see, don't do anything for me. But you co-sign, you're a fan. And yeah, TJ gets to watch it kind of sort of some for the first time, because there are layers you're not going to get when you're. But I'm not questioning anybody's parenting, but 8 years old probably shouldn't watch. Who am I to say? I don't know.
I got so my parents were super strict for some things, and then others for movies and like movies, music, not so much. I had sisters who are 10 and 8 years older than me, so a lot of things like that just kind of got like, who cares? By the time they were, because they were already adults.
I can see that. Do we have a ladder today, by the way, Kyle? Can you tease one? I don't think I saw one in Scores and Odds. Or did I not give it a good enough perusing?
We do have one. I think I threw it in there like probably 3 in the morning, so you probably had to do some digging. But yes, we do have one for today.
Oh, okay. There was one that I thought was kind of interesting. I wonder if it's the same guy, but
no giving it away without reaching a like plateau. You guys can pick it though.
There you go. Well, we'll do it at I don't know, 100 likes, 75 likes. Let's do 75. I don't usually TJ is one that sets the like threshold. We'll say 75. We'll give out the ladder today. Of course, you can get your own Scores and Odds sub as well. Check out the link in the description. So it's a weird day, man. We're currently at 11 games. I don't want to just scratch games out, but I'm just assuming Minnesota-Cincinnati is likely not to play. With it currently being orange-red, I'm going to assume most of the others probably do or have some kind of delay, but I guess we'll talk about them as if they are going to go, and then they'll handle it on crunch time. Roth will give you some more information. You got to, the closer we get to lock, the more info we have as far as that stuff, but that's the best we can do. It's a weird one, Kyle, because pretty clear cut as far as who the best pitchers are. Chris Sale, Framber, Sonny Gray, he's usually pretty good. I think Bubic is really interesting. He's the ladder, spoiler alert, that I liked. I kind of liked him for a ladder against Texas. Over 30% Ks this year versus righties. I think he's facing 8 righties, I want to say. And there's a lot of Ks in that Texas lineup. That's probably the dividing line. That's what Dave wrote about today. Cheese in the article. Cheese will be on later with Kristi and Roth for crunch time at about an hour. And then hitting-wise, I know the Astros have a 5 total, but, it's going to be 7, 8, 9 righties against Castillo, who's Severino, who's not that great anymore, but, he's certainly not what he once was. The ballpark is, great for hitting baseballs, but I just hate this Astros teams collectively against a righty. And the Dodgers have a huge total as well, a 5.5 against Kolek. But otherwise, there's no offense where I'm like, man, I can't imagine not playing this team.
I also want to bring it up just as a talking point if you guys want to, because I forgot to at the top of the show. But Mario Donizzi just brought it up in chat. Did you see that the Bus family just sold the Lakers?
Yeah, I saw that.
I did not see. The Chop who bought it? Did they say who bought it?
Chop and Kirk Dees pulled their money together. I believe Bobby Gomes is going to be like he's not going to be like a hands-on contributor, but I believe he did help pitch in.
$10 billion approximately. Wow. It would have been $9 billion if they didn't have Luka. So like they're worth an extra $1 billion probably. And that's not completely insane to say that, I don't think. Kirkwood confirms. All right. So I should have been nice to Kirkwood all these years. He would probably give me a pretty sweet gig in the front office, but maybe not anymore. So much for that. Life lesson learned. Dew point model, making more money than I suspected. Yeah. So, Kyle, how do you see this slate? Because I have no idea. Not no idea, but there's like no offense. Right? This is my starting point. I want to stack this team. There's not one that's like, well, this is the team I must stack today. Do you feel that way?
There are a couple that I like. In terms of like it being an absolute slam dunk, I'm not fully certain on that. Obviously, I think weather makes things a little bit more tricky to maneuver here. But there are a couple at the top of the board for me, like the Yankees. I like quite a bit. Kahanowitz, I think that's how you say his last name. He's been horrible and allowing a lot of power. So the fact that you get that matchup in that Little League ballpark is nice. But again, there's I think we have that one yellow. Roth has that one labeled right now, so some weather there. So it's not like
Kahanowitz better or worse than Kyle Hendricks? Because I don't know if you saw Kyle Hendricks yesterday.
I think he's yes, I think he's worse, honestly.
Yeah.
But But whenever you can allow, I think Hendricks finished with 7 or 8 strikeouts. That's a little crazy. I don't know what we're doing.
What was that ladder like? What does a 7 strikeout ladder look like for Hendricks? Is that 10-1?
That's retirement money right there. I think. I don't think anyone could have predicted that one. He is a very low strikeout pitcher. So is Kahanowitz. So I guess we'll see how it turns out here. But in terms of power, I do think that he very much struggles, especially from the left side. So you have a lot of lefties, which I think bodes well for this matchup and for this stack. But yeah,
This is the problem with overly aggressively touting all of the bad plays, like our guy Eric Johnson likes to do in chat, because he was on Kyle Hendricks. He was the whole time like Kyle Hendricks. But he also was talking about like 3 different offenses, and they were all terrible. And so it's like, it doesn't help when you pick the bad call that happens to do good when you pair them with all the other bad calls.
Maybe he retired. Kyle was saying retirement. I don't see him in the chat right now. Is it possible Eric retired? Like, shout out to him. And also the Yankees are bad too, I'm told, because they haven't scored in like 4 games. They got swept by Boston. Back-to-back games versus the Angels, they haven't scored a run. Their offense has been sputtering for sure. But
yeah,
you know, baseball is weird. Baseball is fickle. It's hard to predict. Yada yada. But I'm with you. I think the Yankees look pretty good. Yeah, and I'm not afraid of Jack Ohanowitz, obviously. They have a team total at closing in on 6 as well. So there are several teams that have a team total at 6. So I think I'm going to settle in at like doing like a homer hunting, like 3-3-2, like those kind of lineups. I think that's what I'm going to do. I haven't built anything yet, obviously. You know, most lineups are coming on through. Keeping an eye to see if anything happens weather-wise. We just got the Brewers, so nothing official there. No Rhys Hoskins, by the way, for Milwaukee. Cross him off the list. And then Chris Sale's taking a tough matchup here against the Mets, but he's basically matchup proof, and he's going to be the most popular player on the slate. There was a note that the GM came out and said he's not going to be traded, which I didn't know there was rumors of that. Are the Braves playing that bad? I know they're not playing well, but is that something that's was considered that he was on the block? Maybe he was, and I think he's locked in for at least another year. I'm pretty certain. How bad are the Braves this year? Let's see. 32-39. The Mets and Philly are pretty much battling there in the NL East. They got a chance. They got a chance to come back there with the wild card stuff and all that. But I'm curious as far as your overview. I feel much more confident as far as the pitchers, like I alluded to. The cheap stuff is basically nonsense. It's for me going to be Chris Sale. I'm going to try. I know we live in one with a salary cap. I'm going to try to just pair Sale and Valdez together, in part because I don't really love any stack, and just hopefully I kind of pick off some cheap homers. I think that's my thought process today. But your overview as far as the slate is what? Again, we're at 11 games. Pretty decent chance we lose Cincinnati and Minnesota unless something drastically changes there. Some possible delays in Chicago as well. Roth will be on in about an hour to discuss that further. But what do you got, Kyle? How are we seeing this slate, the old 20,000-foot view?
Yeah, I think this is the first Wednesday MLB stream I've been on in a while where we've had like a couple of aces. And I mean, even if you want to throw Bubic into that realm right now with the situation that the Royals are in, he's at least 1B category when they're fully healthy. So you got a few of those guys on this slate. So I do agree with you. It does feel like a better pitching slate than normal in terms of the Wednesdays that I've been on. A couple of these guys are coming off of really bad starts, right? Bubic had that brutal start against the Yankees, which I think that might be the last time it feels like that the Yankees scored any runs. I think it's been 30 innings now since they've scored a run, which is insane. But so Bubic coming off a bad game, Sonny Gray's coming off of a bad game. So I think we could potentially get some lower ownership on both of those guys, especially with Sale and Framber getting a lot of the attention there. This is a great matchup for Framber. Obviously, it's been kind of a huge talking point is the weather and the hitting conditions in Sacramento with how hot it gets and, the smaller ballpark. Wind usually tends to blow out there as well. It's not the usual Oakland Stadium, no marine layer. So very good hitting environment there in Sacramento. But, I mean, if there's a pitcher that you have a ton of confidence in avoiding that, it's probably Framber because he does such a great job at keeping the ball on the ground when he allows contact, but also he strikes out a ton of hitters as well. So I think he's kind of the best of both worlds for a guy who's getting thrown into this sort of hitting environment. So I love the spot for him. Matchup's not great for Chris Sale against a Mets team that is pretty good and doesn't strike out a ton, but not worried about the matchup at all for Sale. I think he's just fine. 7.5 strikeout prop. You mentioned the Bubic play. I didn't look at him too closely last night when I was doing props, but man, it's an amazing matchup for him, especially when you look at these guys' strikeout rates this year. You got like six guys in the lineup with a 25 or 24% strikeout rate or higher against lefties this season. So great matchup for Bubic as well. Sonny Gray is probably, I would say, the shakiest of these top 4 pitchers, but he has probably the best matchup from a lack of power perspective. And then they're kind of backloading this lineup now with some guys with some strikeout upside, which is different than what we've seen. Obviously, they've added a couple of guys without Ryan Noda getting added, kind of mixing up the lineup a little bit. Kyle Teal appears to be a guy who I think is going to have some power, but probably has some strikeout upside as well. So Sonny Gray is also in a good matchup. So I think all 4 of these spend-up options are in pretty good spots. But from a DraftKings perspective, I'm not really like overly sold on any of the value options as well. So I do think it's kind of falling into a slate where we're spending up at the pitcher options, and maybe the fact that we're not super high on an offense actually bodes well because it allows us to get a little bit more in the vomit the vomit stack territory for blender there. So I think that's kind of a pretty good slate mold for me right now.
Just want to read Ross' note here for Orange Yellow. You mentioned Sonny Gray in Chicago. Scattered showers, storms gradually tapering off through the night. Late start is very possible. Current lean is a late start in play. Winds are blowing out 10 miles per hour. That's Chicago as far as the White Sox taking on Sonny Gray. Milwaukee, Chicago, since I'm here. Late start seems fairly likely. We'll need a radar check pregame to see how long it takes the rain to clear. Same overall forecast as the White Sox. Winds mostly left to right across the park at 10 miles per hour, a bit in from the left. All right. And again, I'll go ahead and drop this in chat for the people. And I was taking a peek at the Plate IQ stuff for Bubic, looking at Texas, and their lineup is official. The K's collectively at 26.2%. I think, it's 8 righties. Bubic kind of a neutral pitcher. Reverse splits this year when it comes to strikeouts. 20% Ks versus lefties, 27.7% versus righties. No walks here as far as this Texas lineup either, with the exception of Semien and Langford. Everybody else in the red or the dramatic red. Higashioka, 39 at-bats, 0 walks. Young has 1 walk and 67 at-bats. Adalis Garcia has 1 walk and 54 at-bats. Ezekiel Duran has not walked in 20 at-bats. These not a patient team, and they'll strike out a fair bit too. So I'm not really confident. I feel like Bubic has a chance to go 7+ as far as pitch count as well, assuming he's efficient, assuming he's getting dudes out. So I think the number was you had to pay a lot of juice for over 5.5. So I took the alt number at 6.5, and I got plus 135 or something like that, and then maybe plus 250 at 8, whatever it was. Just betting on an outlier outcome and just betting against that Texas team. And as far as you mentioned Houston, as far as Valdez taking on the Athletics, and who cares how short the fences are and how hot it is if you're not hitting the ball? And that's what this Athletics team does. Or if you're hitting it, you're hitting on the ground. It doesn't matter either. And Valdez keeps the ball on the ground. This A's team, Kurtz has been good against righties. No extra base hits this year versus lefties. 33% strikeouts against lefties. Clark, he's been terrible so far in a small sample. 55% strikeouts. Hasn't walked. Looks like 1 extra base hit here, a 50 ISO. And Muncy, again, a small sample here, but he struck out a ton as well. Butler, left on left, strikes out a fair bit. I wouldn't be surprised to not see him lead off, even if he's in the lineup. I wouldn't, probably not leading off. Well, maybe. It depends. Wilson's the annoying guy, of course. He's a big contact hitter, so just got to get past him and move along. But I think there's still an upside shot here for Valdez. And we've seen this guy, quality start machine, and every once in a while drops the CGSO. He can do that as well. Not necessarily calling that, but Derek says Clark is a hell of a defender. He is. He's very good at playing defense, but we've made already several incredible highlights in the outfield. I think he came in as like an 80 grade fielder. They were hyping it up, and pretty quickly that, of course, was it Trout? No, somebody else for the Angels. He had one of the catches of the year. Shonwell, yeah, that's who it was. Another big contact hitter. Otherwise, as far as the pitchers, like you said, Taj Bradley has shown he's had moments, but the stats are the stats, and they're not spectacular. Trevor Rogers, this is a Baltimore traded for him last season from the Marlins and hasn't quite worked out. He hasn't been great in AAA either. Kind of called up here through necessity. Not really on him. He's kind of cheap, I guess. I will tell you, I don't know if you saw, if you caught much of the debut of Mizorowski. The analytics guy, the advanced stats people are losing their minds over him. I think it was no hits. It was like five. It was a bunch of walks. I watched some of that start. He hurt himself at the end. It was just like I think it was his leg. He's fine. Throwing 101, like 101, 102, just throwing absolute gas against Chicago. They're making you pay for it, and who knows what you're going to get out of him. And obviously, he's not a complete project, but he has an arsenal. I think he has an 80 fastball, like an 80 grade fastball, and only because you can give 80. Like they can't go any higher than that. And they were talking about the break of it. I was listening to a breakdown. Was it Pitching Ninja? I think it was, discussing his arsenal, just his debut, and it's just incredibly spectacular. And like Milwaukee looks like they got themselves, assuming he stays healthy and all that, a legit pitcher. I don't know if I want to pick on Chicago, and the weather, obviously, buyer beware, and the price isn't great, but he's a guy that could probably strike out 7 or 8 if you look at the arsenal. But like, if you're going to dig into the bucket of nonsense, Severino, Verlander, his first start in a while. I think he had 65 pitches his last. There's no official rehab start, but like on the side or something. You're not playing Verlander. Logan Allen's cheap and he's going to go ballpark. That's the nicest thing you can say about him, I suppose. And I guess if everybody else stinks, Kolek is facing the Dodgers. Patrick Corbin. Like, if you're going to play one of these nonsense pitchers, and I'm not saying you are necessarily, who would it be?
Yeah, for me, it would be probably Mizorowski, just from a upside standpoint. But to your point, the price isn't necessarily in a spot where it's all that great. Bradley, I think, is an interesting option because, like, as long as when you are playing him, you're understanding the fact that it might not go well because he's just a high variance guy right now. The ability to go super deep into games hasn't necessarily been there. He's done it at times, but he also has had a short leash, only 4 innings pitched in the last 2 games. The 2 games prior to that, 7 innings pitched. So he's shown upside, but he's also shown, a lot of shakiness. And I think that's only amplified with the matchup. Here you get a matchup against Baltimore, guys with power pretty much top to bottom. Every hitter in this lineup so far this season has a 177 ISO or higher against righties, other than Kobe Mayo, who's just a prospect who hasn't really gotten going yet. Jackson Holliday's at 177. After that, everybody else has a 200 ISO or greater against righties. So there also is some strikeouts in this lineup, a combined strikeout rate of 26% against righties. So again, I just think it's very risk reward for this matchup, and especially Bradley being a risk reward type option as well. The strikeout rate's been down this year compared to last, but he's shown that he still has that in his tank. Had 10 strikeouts 2 or 3 starts ago. So I think as long as you're okay with accepting the fact that, hey, if you roll out Taj Bradley and he puts up 5 points or fewer, as long as you understand that is in the range of outcomes, I think he's a fine tournament play because he does have the ceiling. In terms of guys who I think hit that ceiling more often, I do think he probably hits that ceiling more often than Mizorowski. But I think Mizorowski's range of outcomes is probably a little bit tighter. I mean, you talked about the advanced numbers for him. It was actually, it looks like a good start, right? He had a good start. He had 5 strikeouts. He walked 4, like you mentioned, no hits in those 5 innings. He left because he was, after he threw a pitch, he was going to, get back onto the mound and rolled his ankle on the mound. He's just like I think he's like 6'7", and he's just super lanky, and so it was just an awkward thing. So he got the clearance pretty quickly though. So I think he's totally fine to go. But in terms of the injury, I'm not worried about that. 130 stuff plus, again, very small sample, but Tarek Skubal, just for reference, 118 stuff plus. Garrett Crochet, 114 stuff plus. Framber, Chris Sale, those guys are at 107. So the stuff.
What is the scale? Is it like 100 is like break even? What's the scale of stuff plus? I know I'm aware of it, but I don't really dig into it. I don't know. I can look at the list, right? Like you're saying. Do you know what that means? Like 130?
I think 100 is league average.
Okay.
I could be wrong on that, but I think 100 is league average. And so then it's just a scale above that. Obviously, with the sample, he'll regress a bit at that 130 number, but just the fact that he threw, I think, 82 pitches or so. And that's also another plus for him, but it's also a question mark because did they let him stay out there because he was throwing a no-hitter? Or is he going to be capped at 80 pitches or whatever it is for a young guy? So I've seen some people around the industry have him for sub 80 pitches tonight. When that's the case, he's probably not going to project all that well. But if you're going to have him for 85 to 90 pitches here, which I think is more than reasonable if he's not getting lit up, he's going to project pretty well. So I think it kind of just depends on maybe some assumptions that you have to make because we don't have a lot of historical data to go off at this point. But I do think he still has a really strong ceiling. I do think he has, like you mentioned, once we get to the like marker, I'll definitely touch on Mizrowski some more. But I do like him quite a bit tonight from an upside standpoint. But again, he's another guy with not much of a floor. Him and Bradley, I think, are the same. And the last guy I'll throw out there is just sheerly sort of punt range. That's Justin Verlander, which might sound a little strange, considering he's probably not going to throw any more than 80 pitches. But it's a great matchup for him. His stuff has also looked pretty solid in terms of when we've seen him. He just hasn't really had the ability to go deep into games yet. But the fact that he's only 7K, the fact that he has an elite strikeout matchup here against the Guardians, I do like Verlander. And again, he's another guy who I've had a lot of success recently picking on matchups like this where he's facing 7 or 8 projected left-handed hitters in this lineup. His strikeout rate since the start of last year is at 21% against lefties, down to 16% against righties. So if he's going to play, 7 or 8 lefties in that opposing Guardians lineup, I like the matchup quite a bit here for JV. So while you're probably, again, not going to have much of a ceiling, I actually like his floor more than the two guys I mentioned previously, but I don't think he has the ceiling to compete with where I think Bradley and Mizrowski could put up if they have, those top outcome games.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Mizrowski has a bigger ceiling for sure. I was taking a peek as far as our projections when it comes to pitches. I looked at both the bat and RG stuff. Cardi has Mizrowski projected for 78, and RG has him for like 84, I think it is, 86.
Yeah,
so,
that's where I put him last night in our projection. So that's me speaking into the projections for sure. He was fully stretched out in the minors, so I have no reason to believe. I don't have it, and he threw 81 pitches in a game where he was forced out. So yes, you can argue that he was forced out, and he might not have thrown more if he didn't have a no-hitter going. But based on what we saw, I have no reason to believe that he doesn't have the ability to throw 85 plus pitches. So maybe Carter's expecting him to get roughed up a bit more by this Cubs lineup, which is totally reasonable as well, as they're a very strong lineup. But still, I do think he has the upside to throw 90 plus pitches tonight if things go well.
I saw somebody asking about Yarborough. We haven't talked about him. He's not expected to throw a lot of pitches either. He's cheap. No Soler in that Angels lineup. Where do we have him for 84 pitches? So it's not. It's mostly he's 6'5". So if he's fine, if he's pitching okay, and again the SP2 stuff, unless you're going double barrel, your second pitcher is probably not very comfortable tonight. Is he somebody you've considered? Is he in the bucket or not so much?
I actually like that Yarbrough call quite a bit. Again, another guy with, it seems like all the SP2 options have a lot of flaws, right? A lot of question marks in their resume. Yeah. Yarbrough definitely has that as well because you have a ton of big power bats in this Angels lineup, but also tons of strikeouts. So he's struggled with power against righties. He's gotten lefties out pretty significantly. He's going to face probably, I think it's 8, maybe even 9 righties in this lineup. I think right now we have
Sean Wells in there, so it's 8.
Okay, yeah, so 8 righties. So it's again a spot where he's either gonna rack up some strikeouts and be just fine, or he could deal with some power issues. But he is also 6'4", 6'5" on DraftKings, so yeah, he's certainly in the player pool.
The strikeouts, man. It's weird if you look at the Angels versus lefties this year. Like they don't face them. It's very odd. I don't know how they miss. If you look at the at-bats, like Ward 43, Adele 37, he strikes out a lot, obviously 30%. But like they don't have big samples. Neto, who leads off every single game, is 35 at-bats versus lefties. That seems weird, right? They just not face lefties this year?
Yeah, it definitely does seem like it's a low number. Even when you look at in plate IQ current and last year, they still have a combined strikeout rate of 27%, but you also have Christian Moore down there with a 50% rate. That's going to hike things up a bit. But still, it's 4 or 5 guys with a 24% strikeout rate or higher. against lefty since the start of last year. So there's definitely still some upside in the matchup for Yarbrough. But again, he's another guy that's probably not going to go super deep into the game. So I think all these SP2s kind of have the same profile where they have some ceilings, but it's more so you have to be okay with potentially eating that sub 5-point game from the SP2 if you're going to go there.
You mentioned Christian Moore. I'm not seeing him in the lineup. I'm seeing it ending Adele Kingery Newman. Is Moore in the lineup?
I probably have to refresh, but yeah.
Yeah, give it a refresh. I don't think he's in there.
Yeah, it looks like Newman and Kingery. Yeah. Okay, so strikeout wise, that for Newman, he doesn't strike out much at all. So that hurts
no power,
a bit. Yeah, no power. So that hurts the strikeout upside a little bit. But I think in general, the thesis on Yarbrough is still the same.
Anything else you want to say as far as pitchers? I saw Corbin thrown out in chat. I know the Royals are kind of not very good outside of basically one or two players. And, some of their better secondary hitters hit from the left-hand side as well. I don't really have much else. I saw Lauer was thrown out there. I can't imagine playing out Lauer today. And Logan Allen's the cheapest, and he's in a good ballpark if you want to just play him for that, but you can't feel great about it either. But, and I see TJ, by the way, showing off SimLabs. TJ, what's SimLabs telling us here? I see you talking about it in chat. Feel free to tell us what we're showing on the screen.
Oh, I was just, a couple of people didn't realize that the projected ownership for the players is on the thing I pull up in screenshot. So it is kind of annoying in the screen share format. I wish I could just only show this right side of the page and I could kind of just get rid of this left stuff for this. But first little number, obviously we have salary, we have player names. First number here is the optimal rates of the players. Highest is Chris Bubich today at 30%. Right beside it is the ownership percentage. And then right here is the difference between the two of them. So if you just want to quickly sort who has the highest chance of being optimal relative to their ownership, and we see today it's actually Bubich for both.
Interesting. I like it. I was in on it beforehand. I'm still in on Bubich. Give me the summary. Somebody just tuned in right now, Kyle. They missed the first half of the show, first 30 minutes. You want to give them the TLDR, just join the show a minute or so as far as pitchers before we segue and talk about some stacks, some bats.
Yeah, on DraftKings, there's a top tier of these top 4 spend up options: Sale, Valdez, Bubich, and then Sonny Gray. I would rank those probably Bubich, Valdez, Sale, Sonny Gray, and I know it's probably aggressive ranking Sale third, but I do think that spending down that $1,200 allows you to get some more bats. I like Valdez quite a bit from an upside perspective, but I have no problem if anyone wants to label Sale as number one. I think Sale and Valdez are probably tied for me. I do like Bubich probably as the number one pitching option on the slate right now because of the ownership, and then Sonny Gray before. So those are the 4 spend up options that I think you have. Ideally, you find 2 of those guys and build within those 2, but then I'll say there's probably 3 or 4 options in that 9K or less range. Mizorowski, Taj Bradley, Justin Verlander, and Ryan Yarbrough are probably the 4 that stick out to me the most in terms of SP2 options. And other than that, probably not getting too crazy, like Corbin not going there. We see, I think Eric's made his appearance talking about Eric Lauer. Probably just a name thing. He's probably trying to get some guys with the same name in lineups, not going there. But so I think there's 4 spend up options and then 4 cheap options that I'm kind of living with today, and that's pretty much going to be the pool for me.
You don't catch me rostering Dean Kramer, just so you know, officially. I'm not just, that doesn't happen.
Look what I just figured out how to do. How beautiful is that?
That looks pretty. There you go.
Up and zoomed in, ready to go.
We got an update for weather. I don't want to make this an entirely weather-driven show, but both games in Chicago are now orange, straight orange. We have yellow-orange for the Mets and Atlanta, which I don't like. I don't like that when it's Chris Sale. I know the orange is not the dominant color, but I don't like that. I don't like seeing that. And it's Atlanta, too, which always their weather can be kind of dicey and unpredictable and changing, every 20 minutes depending on. And also Minnesota, Cincinnati, worse, red-orange. So that tells me that that's probably going to get delayed. We'll see. I mean, it canceled or postponed, however you want to say it. Again, Roth will be on about a half hour, more information coming in, but just be aware. They're talking about Sonny Gray in chat. You have to be a really special pitcher for me to play you in an orange situation. I know not all orange situations exactly the same depending on, but there's context. But just be aware. Just be aware of that. We might lose a game or two. We might have some delays, and Roth will elaborate in a bit. Okay, let's talk some bats. Let's talk some stacks. Kyle was kind enough to do our tier category. And it came pretty quickly. I was asking you, I hit you up. You're actually I was watching you doing the basketball show, and I was like, oh, we didn't do tiers today. Let me see what Kyle's up to. And like, oh, he's doing a show. Let me bother him on the show. And then you, right afterwards, you responded, and like we figured it out as far as what we're going to rank today, and tell the people the category. And there might be some hot takes in there, and people might get angry. You never know. They take this stuff seriously. But what do we come up with?
You know what they say, if you're not making someone angry, you're probably not doing things right when it comes to hot takes. But yeah, Dean shot me a message asking for tiers, and I was sipping on a Diet Coke, and I said, you know what, soft drink rankings. So I think number one, I went with Diet Coke. That's been my go-to this summer or spring. I guess it's not technically summer yet, and then number two, Pepsi. That used to be my go-to. Number three, I went with Sprite. Number four, maybe a hot take, Mountain Dew. I think that is absolute piss. So I can't get behind anybody who wants Mountain Dew. I see Dr. Pepper in the chat. I almost had Dr. Pepper as bottom tier as well. But,
oh, wow.
Yeah, because that's another hot take. But Mountain Dew's definitely worse. And then five, wasn't sure if this would qualify at first, but then we decided that seltzers were in. So LaCroix was easily bottom tier for me. I actually have a funny story about LaCroix. In college, had some friends come up and visit from hometown. So there were some girlfriends there, some, significant others. And one of my best friends, significant other, brought some LaCroix up. And she made a wall, a brigade of LaCroix. And I was just not having it, throwing them out of the house. I'm like, get these out of here, because that LaCroix is absolutely horrible. So if you drink LaCroix on your own, I question what is going on. So yeah, that's right. That's easy choice. Bottom five.
I don't get the LaCroix or just those sparkling water in general. I don't understand it. I know it's kind of like the craze, and if you watch stock in it, like in theory, I feel like it's gone up the last couple of years. People are like, LaCroix is one of the things that is getting a bump of late. TJ says brisk iced tea. This is soft drinks. Is brisk iced tea a soft drink? Is that a soft drink?
I would say no, but
it is, because you can get it in the a soft drink dispenser, so it counts. It's not carbonated, but it's considered a soft drink.
I feel like a prerequisite to be a soft drink is to be carbonated. I feel like it is. It's a good loophole. That's a fair argument you're making.
But even if we wanted to put that, you cannot put brisk as number one.
That's a good counterpoint.
It's not even the best iced tea.
I'm just trying. So your iced tea is not the same as ours. So I was trying to pick one that's trying to be relatively similar, but all of your iced tea sucks. That's just a Canada thing compared to a US thing. It's just all gross in the States. Sweet tea, iced tea, it's all gross in the States.
I don't like tea either.
A soft drink is considered a non-alcoholic drink, especially one that is carbonated. So it does not have to be.
Okay.
But it says especially.
Okay, fair. Squirt getting some love in the chat.
I also don't like soda/pop. It's just not for me.
Kyle, my question is this. You put Diet Coke, then Pepsi. Do you not drink Coke, or do you switch back and forth? Are you not loyal? Do you like Pepsi more than Coke? How did that ranking happen?
So honestly, up until the past half year or so, I was a Pepsi fiend, and then I wanted to get a little bit healthier, and so I switched over to Diet Coke. Diet Coke is actually it tastes better than regular Coke for sure, and the fact that it's 0 calorie, that's why it's number one. But yes, it actually does, in my opinion, taste better than all these drinks now. I think it's a godsend for me. So shout out to Diet Coke.
And all the Mountain Dews, not just the standard, not the OG. You're talking Baja Blast and the red one, all different colors and varieties. It's all nonsense for you.
Yeah, all Mountain Dew is pretty trash. I get the Baja Blast crave. I get that. It's not terrible, especially a frozen Baja Blast. It's not terrible, but also the fact that people will drink these neon colored drinks, it just feels like it's just going through my intestines. And I know Phil is saying that I have some awful takes because he's a cherry Coke guy.
You're doing it right. That's what it means. You're doing it right.
Yeah. If Phil's just my biggest hater, then that's okay. I actually don't know if he's my biggest hater, but anyway, the Cherry Coke take is a good one. Cherry Coke is good, but Diet Coke's number one for me because it's just tastes amazing, and the fact that it's 0 calorie, I think is it's a miracle, honestly. So had to be number one for me.
There's a Mountain Dew Purple Thunder. I had no idea that existed. And a Baja Punch. There's a Baja Punch. I haven't seen any of these. I'm not aware of them. But Major Melon I've seen before. It's an eyesore, the box. But all right. Let's move on. Let's throw some teams and some tiers. We got 22 teams to throw in tiers as of right now. Again, we might lose a game depending on by the way, Pittsburgh, Detroit rained out, if you're not aware. Not on our slate, not relevant for our conversation. But if you're thinking about baseball tonight, no Skubal. Jake Ohanowitz taking on the Yankees. 6 total for New York, almost a 6 total. I kind of rounded up. They haven't scored in, I think, 3 straight games, 9.5 as far as the collective total. Ryan Yarbrough on the other side. Grisham leading off. Judge in there. Ben Rice is in the lineup. He was in there yesterday. Dominguez takes the 1 hole yesterday. Now he's down to the 8 spot. Who's out today? It's Stanton. Stanton not playing baseball for New York. If they play him like 3 consecutive games, that he might combust or something. That's probably a bad idea. But yeah, where do you have the Yankees? I think that the highest total on the board, taking on Jake Ohanowitz, who we're not impressed by.
Yeah, I think just for reference, I'm not going to think about weather too much here because first of all, I don't really look at weather until I can hear it come from Roth, aka God's lips himself. So I'll listen to the crunch time later. So other than the Minnesota and Cincinnati game, because that seems pretty brutal, I'm going to rank these teams without considering weather too much because there's a lot of different nuances. That New York is going in the Diet Coke tier for me. Love this spot. I would absolutely love if people are kind of over this team. Obviously, been 3 games since they've scored a run. A little over 3 games. I think it's been 29, 30 innings scoreless. So if people want to continue to have that linger in their minds, good. Let the ownership be a little lower there. So I like them in the Diet Coke range. Love the lefties more. And then obviously you're not going to leave out Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is pricey. That's kind of why I alluded to liking Bubic, because that salary can really help get you a guy like Aaron Judge. Grisham, Bellinger, Jazz, Ben Rice. Love all these guys for tonight's slate, again, in that Little League ballpark. For the Angels.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. What were you going to say?
No, I thought you mentioned the Angels, but for some reason you didn't. Because I saw them in the Mountain Dew spot, and TJ's just guessing where they're going to go, and he's probably right.
Yep, he is right. They're going to go in the Mountain Dew spot. I think that's, they're okay. That I think they do have some upside, but they're just not amongst my favorite teams tonight.
Speaking of the Yankees, the second Spidey Bomb just dropped. That was at 75 likes, which means I think we have to give our ladder soon as well. You do a ladder today in scores and odds. You've been hot as far as the ladders. Jazz is the 4-1 for Jazz Chisholm. I think PCA, Pete Armstrong, was 7-1, which is a pretty big number for PCA. I know we talked glowingly about Mizorowski. What do you got, TJ?
That was just my theme today of high odds of good hitters in terrible spots. I took Cal Raleigh over 4 bases. Pete Crow Armstrong 7-1. Even though it's a tough pitching matchup and the winds are blowing in a little, but still. And so that was kind of the theme of most of my picks today.
What is happening in that game? I just realized that game is happening. Crochet versus Raleigh. Boston up 3-1. I'm guessing Raleigh, we got a hit. I don't know if it was an extra base variety, but Crochet with
a double, so I still need 2 more bases from them.
All right, there you go. You're on your way. All right, next game up on the board. We're talking about the D-backs and TJ's Blue Jays. 8.5 is a total. We saw a walk-off yesterday. Was it a walk-off or was that the top? No, it was at home, right? That was a walk-off for Barger. Shout out to him. I know you guys talked about him pretty glowingly on the show yesterday as well. D-backs in Toronto. The roof was open yesterday. Is it still open today? That's probably worth checking. Maybe makes a little minor difference. Lauer is a lefty, but not a lefty we're necessarily afraid of. Where do you want to throw the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays on the board? Well, I try to find some roof information.
Yeah, I love this spot here for the Diamondbacks against Lauer. Lauer's sort of survived the past few games. He's gotten away with, he's been a bulk guy or an opener in times, but obviously last game threw 72 pitches, only gave up 2 runs. in my opinion, he's sort of just biding his time. I do think he's going to get beat up here eventually. He's just a soft tossing lefty that doesn't really have any stuff that'll beat anybody. Likes to lead with that fastball, throws a fastball 50% of the time. This is a team that hits fastballs very well against left-handed pitching. So Arizona is going in the Diet Coke range. They're one of my favorite stacks of the night, and I think that they're going to be pretty underrated in my opinion. So I love this spot here for them. And then on the Toronto side, I think that they're fine. I don't love them as much as I like this Arizona team, but I'm going to put them in the Sprite category. They do have some guys here who can hit lefties. Obviously, the sort of newfound resurgence of Barger has been helpful, but he's also a guy that has struggled against lefties. Vlad's been their best hitter against lefties. Ernie Clement has been a low-key pleasant surprise for this Toronto team, but still some weaknesses in this lineup. And while Erod is a guy with a lot of volatility, he's also a guy who can miss bats. Toronto doesn't miss, or they don't swing and miss a whole lot. But I do think Erod's just one of those guys he's not quite a gas can yet, in my opinion. So Sprite category for the Blue Jays.
We just got a Cubs lineup, so they're at least expected to. They made a lineup. I guess they had to. Again, that game is orange. Happ, Tucker, Suzuki, PCA, Swanson, Bush, Kelly, Horner, and Shaw in the 9-hole. All right, this is the game that Roth doesn't seem very optimistic it's going to play. Minnesota at Cincinnati. Nick Lodolo, Bailey, Ober, 9 total. I don't know where you want to throw him, what you want to do with it, but have at it.
Yeah, we'll throw Minnesota in the LaCroix territory just because I don't think there's any point in really risking it. There are definitely times where an offense, I don't mind like taking a chance on them if there's a little bit of rain issue, but this one seems a little bit more significant. Cincinnati, I would like quite a bit here in this spot if it weren't for the weather. So again, I just can't really get behind it. So we're going to leave them in the LaCroix range. This would be a team, again, that I would have interest in. Maybe if this game gets postponed to tomorrow. Ober has been struggling from a power prevention perspective, but just can't do it today with the weather issues.
By the way, I'll just read what Roth wrote. This is for Minnesota, Cincinnati. I guess I just don't see what they are seeing. There's a few tiny areas of clearing, but it's mostly a soaker all night. I think a postpone is likely whether they are smart and do it early or not. So he doesn't seem very optimistic, and TJ showing it off there on the screen. I also dropped the link with everything else in the chat. If you guys are in the chat, do hit that like button, do subscribe, turn on notifications. The more likes, the more Spidey bombs you get. We have a couple already out there in play. PCA, that great number that TJ got there, and Jazz as well. We're also going to get that ladder shortly from Kyle. And Lord King Guru said he needs some of that. What was he asking for there in the chat for some of Kyle's? What is your home run gimmick? I
think it was a Murray Moonshot.
Murray Moonshot. That's what it was. Yeah. I don't. Is that what we settled on, or is that still? We're still workshopping that.
Hey, that's what the people wanted. That's what they asked for. So we get the people what they want here. There
you go. Well, we have a couple of those. I'm sure you'll have some before we turn it over to Crunch Time. We got a few for the people before we step aside. Okay. Sale taking on Blackburn. Good Mets offense facing the best pitcher on the slate. Blackburn, not a big sample in the season, but historically not a pitcher we're necessarily afraid of. The Braves have been pretty underwhelming, obviously, on the year. They do still have a team total of 5. There is some potential weather, yada, yada, yada. But, how much are we picking on Chris Sale? The old leverage thing, if you want to attack him, by all means. It's not going to be me. I'm not playing the Mets. I don't make enough lineups to justify it. But your thoughts as far as New York and Atlanta?
Yeah, not going to be a spot where I'm looking to pick on Sale at all. I get the Mets have a talented lineup in their own right, but not liking them here. So I'll put them in the LaCroix tier. And then on the Atlanta side, Atlanta's had some pop here and there recently. That put up some run production, but for the most part, Blackburn's not a guy that I'm afraid of at all. So we'll go ahead and put them in the Pepsi tier. Prefer some of these. Obviously you have the big bats, right? Acuna, Azuña, Matt Olson, Austin Riley. Riley's been super frustrating for me personally whenever I roster him, but these are the guys that you're definitely wanting to highlight on. But you also have some nice value options as well, especially on FanDuel, some cheaper options on the Brave side. So like them quite a bit today.
Yeah, Acuna's been awesome since getting back in the lineup and since getting healthy. He did finally steal a base, which is nice to see as well. Yeah. 7 homers. You care about batting average, 392 batting average. He's raking. Does officially have 1 steal. Now, I think, if you care about such things, I think the stolen base was on a 3-2 pitch where the batter struck out. So Maybe he was one of those just deals like, they kind of put the runner in motion. He's not running a lot. It's just, again, that's not necessarily how he gets to his elite number. He bangs out a couple homers. He can do that. It's just like nice to have in the back pocket. And I guess he can still steal, I think, at least on a 3-2 count. All right. It's Baltimore and Tampa. Taj Bradley throwing baseballs against Trevor Rogers. We have not seen a lot from Rogers this season, but, the minor league stuff isn't great. Once upon a time, he was interesting, kind of sort of somewhat protective of that ballpark there in Miami. Tougher ballpark today, outside in the humidity. In Tampa, it's also going to be in the 80s, wind slightly blowing out as well. 4.5 total on both sides, basically a coin toss. How are we seeing? By the way, no, it's like Gary Sanchez is doing the catching. So Rushman is not in the lineup for Baltimore, so scratch him off the list. Of course, Brandon Lau not getting the start here against the lefty. Christopher Morel in the cleanup spot. Speaking of disappointing players, one of the most disappointing players on the season. Tampa is usually one of those teams that you end up regretting trading with. But that one has not worked out. He's been pretty terrible since arriving there. Baltimore and Tampa.
Yeah. Again, I think for the Baltimore side, it's a spot where they definitely have some upside, and I think the Bradley ownership will probably dictate how much I actually like them this side more. But they're going to be a mid-tier stack for me, so they'll be in the Sprite category, Baltimore, and then for Tampa. Rogers is a guy who I've had some interest in, like back in the day, right? As a up and coming prospect, he had some stuff, but in terms of currently, don't have a lot of great data that I feel super comfortable attacking. But this Rays lineup, they just don't have a ton of guys who hit lefties extremely well, so they'll also be right there in the Sprite category. TJ nailed it. So both these guys mid tier for me.
I like Cameron Arrow. Like he's like my favorite guy on Tampa. 181 ISO in the season's not spectacular, but I think he's a good hitter. I don't know, just sort of watching him. I think he takes good at bats. He just missed yesterday. I don't know. I'm a fan of his. I would buy stock in Cameron Arrow if possible. For what it's worth, by Morel this season has not been horrific against. He strikes out a lot against lefties, 37%. He's at least shown some power, 161 ISO. If you're just looking for a cheap homer or something like that. Also, possibly a pinch hit threat, maybe. Depending on Brendan Lau is going to join this game in some capacity. If the game is close, you'd have to imagine. I think they have somebody else. Aranda did crack the lineup versus the lefty. They typically sit him too.
I think Josh Lowe is also out.
That's who it is. There you go.
Yeah.
Lowe, Lau, neither of which are in the lineup, and they probably enter. Oh, Curtis Mead. That's the one. Curtis Mead's the guy that's going to go bye-bye, right? I think.
Yeah, I would say, probably Mead or maybe Caballero later on, potentially, just for lack of power and whatnot. But yeah, probably Mead, I would guess, is the guy most likely.
Let's see what let's take a peek at the bats. Let's see what the bat has for pinch hit stuff. Mead is the most likely one at 37%, Morel at 29%. Those are the top two for Tampa. Caballero 14% for what it's worth. Mangum at 8%. Okay. Well, it's just tricky to stack Tampa versus lefties for this kind of reason.
Yeah.
St. Louis and the White Sox, Sonny Gray, Sean Burke, 8.5 total. Again, last we saw this game is orange. Roth will be on in about 15 minutes or so. Give you some more details. I did see somebody ask in chat, hey, I just joined the show. Why do we have two teams that look pretty appealing, Cincinnati and Minnesota in LaCroix? Well, it's because Roth thinks that game's not going to play, and we trust Roth, unless otherwise noted. Obviously, the game plays, some kind of miracle happens. You would bump you, and you gave some context. You said Cincinnati would like adjust accordingly. But yeah, St. Louis, the White Sox. What do you got?
Yeah, White Sox going to be in the LaCroix territory, where they're typically going to be with me. I know last time I was on the show, I bumped them up a little bit, but not today. For the St. Louis side, I actually would have some interest in this team. The weather is not ideal, but since it's orange and since a late start, sounds like it could be in the range of outcomes. I'm going to rank them as is, and we're going to put them in the Sprite category. Obviously, I would downgrade them if it starts to sound worse from a weather perspective, and I would probably upgrade them a little bit from a leverage standpoint if it sounds better weather-wise. But Sean Burke's been a guy who I just projects as one of these hitters or one of these pitchers who has just, again, been biding his time and sort of getting lucky without really getting smoked. Obviously, he's had a couple of really bad games. I think he let up 7 runs in that last start against Houston, but he survived in a couple of other spots, but just doesn't really have a ton of great stuff, and been struggling a lot against righties. There are some good right-handed bats in this lineup as well. So Cardinals, I do like quite a bit, but the weather is something to note.
He's got the 3 things that I like when stacking a team. Well, there's more than 3, but one is no K ability, 17% strikeouts. He's high walk rate, over 10% as far as walks, and a fly ball lean. So if you give me a guy that doesn't strike people out, he walks too many, and he gives up too many fly balls, like without knowing anything else, I like that start. All right. Let's jump to the other Chicago game. It's Milwaukee taking on the Cubbies. Again, another one where we want to keep an eye on here for weather. Jameson Taillon versus who we saw last time out, Mizorowski, the Miz. I saw their I don't know if they're adapting the wrestler. There's a Miz character in wrestling, but that's the way it's pronounced. I saw people in the crowd. I guess it was his family for his debut. They were all in shirts that said Miz on it, so I think that's kind of his thing. I'm not sure, but Mizorowski looks incredible. He looks like the prototype, right? 6'7". The mechanics are great. The fastball, triple digits. The Cubs, of course, are pretty tough offense here. We're a little bit cautious as far as pitch count possibly, but probably throw somewhere 80, 85, somewhere around there. Interesting for tournaments. I wish he was a tick cheaper, but that'll also keep his ownership down. Where do you have the Brewers and the Cubs as far as the offenses?
Yeah, so for the Brewers, Taillon's not a pitcher that I'm really all that afraid of pretty much ever, but they have a really low run total. That probably tells me it's mostly weather stuff. So they'll go in the Sprite category for the Brewers, and then I'll also leave the Cubs in the Sprite category as well. And the Cubs, I do think are probably, the Cubs will go in the Pepsi category. And this is going to sound like I'm, kind of refuting myself, I suppose.
Yeah.
But I think from an upside perspective, both of these sides have upside. And I think that can definitely, be something that you just build around, especially in several lineups. But if Mizorowski has a good game and he's clicking, I think he can throw 85 to 90 plus pitches here. And I think he has the strikeout upside. But if he doesn't have it, he does profile as a guy who could have a lot of swing and miss stuff, but also have a lot of power troubles. Because again, he's going to give up a lot of hard contact. I think with a guy who leads with the fastball and relies on the fastball as much as he does, and obviously he has the fastball slider combo that sort of peel off of each other, that doesn't really profile as a guy who's going to be able to keep the ball on the ground a ton either. So you look at all these bats, obviously you have 2 MVP candidates in the same lineup. So we'll put them in the Pepsi category of the Cubs. But I mean, I guess for the ladder, I took a ladder on Mizorowski. I know we're at 101 likes now. So he's the guy who I laddered tonight. And again, I don't have any problem taking chances on guys who I think have ceilings. That doesn't go to say that he could easily get roughed up a little bit and only throw 78 pitches. But if it's a spot where he's pitching well and he's going to throw 85 to 88 plus pitches, I think he has the upside to strike out 6, 7, 8, 9 hitters in this spot. So Mizorowski was the ladder play. I think he does have some ceiling here, even though there is a wide range of outcomes for his performance. But I think that also benefits the Cubs hitters, so I'll put them in the Pepsi category.
I usually catch these, Kyle. You're one of the ones that does it the most, dropping like the 3 o'clock, 2 in the morning stuff on Scores and Odds. I love when you do that. And many times, this is when you get the best odds. You wake up at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, the odds have already changed. But this is when you get the best odds sometimes, when you pounce early. 4 o'clock in the morning.
Category there, Kyle?
Cubs, you got it right. Just
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
That was 4 o'clock in the morning. You're writing about it. I found it. 4.5 looks like the standard number. You got to pay some juice, but yeah. I do like the over on 4.5. Obviously, assuming that game goes, assuming there's no issue of like a delay. I would imagine that they would be super cautious if he starts pitching and then there's a delay. With a young arm, they probably wouldn't push him beyond the smallest amount of time possible, like 45 minutes or something like that. If it's like an hour and a half or 2 hours, probably doesn't come back. You never really know. Veterans tend to come back an hour and a half or so. Then there's that cutoff. But I see you also had the Tigers on some alt lines as well too. Maybe you'll get it tomorrow.
Honestly, that was one of my favorite bets of the year. That Tigers alt line -1.5. So if that's going to be the case again tomorrow, as long as it's the same matchup, Heaney versus Skubal, I would be slamming that -1.5 number.
Jack says White Sox game canceled. I don't see that anywhere just yet, but can you give us a source if you don't mind, or are you just speculating? We know that game's possibly
Postponed.
dicey.
Confirmed.
Okay.
White Sox game is postponed.
Okay, thank you. So scratch Sonny Gray and Sean Burke. So that means like whatever ownership Gray was getting, it's going to go to Bubic, right? It's going to go to Bubic and Framber and like the top 3 guys. Now it's going to be squeezed, assuming Sale is clean, weather-wise. But I think it's going to get even more condensed up top, I believe, amongst those 3.
Yeah, I think people will still go to Sale and Valdez more than Bubic. So I don't think Bubic is going to be sub 20% now, but I still think he'll be lower on those other top 2 options.
What was our number on Gray? Let's see. It was
we had him at 30%. But keep in mind that ownership number doesn't factor in potential delays. Like it's not factoring in public sentiment on the weather. So he probably wasn't actually going to be at that 30% number. So people were probably already proactive about that.
Yeah. So I think what you're saying is Sale was 35. He was probably going to be like 40 or 45. Valdez is 23. He was probably going to be 30.
Yep.
And now those numbers are going to hold and possibly even more.
Yep.
Because there's 30 percentage points to go around. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Just the chalk probably just got a little bit chalkier when it comes to the pitchers. Just interesting notes. Speaking of Bubic taking on Texas. 8 total. Patrick Corbin versus Bubic. Kansas City, the slight favorite here, minus 136. Do we like either offense here?
Yeah, I actually like this Kansas City team. I'm going to put Kansas City in the Pepsi category, which is a bit aggressive, but considering how much they've struggled with the bats recently. But I think, again, the thing I like about this team is a lot of the guys that you're rostering, they also have stolen base upside. So if you're going to roster a guy who doesn't have power, but he has some stolen base upside, these guys can sort of neutralize that a bit, especially on FanDuel. But so Kansas City, I know they've struggled, but I think their lack of production recently will keep their ownership down against a guy who I've been stacking against for the better part of a decade now, Patrick Corbin. So let's keep that rolling here. And then the Texas side, no interest there. Bubic is a guy who I don't like attacking. So I'll put them in the Mountain Dew category for the Rangers.
To be fair, and I've done it too, you haven't stacked against Corbin successfully this year.
Correct.
That's been a bad idea. Yeah. I get it, but it hasn't really worked out. He's been kind of good. If you cover the name up, like this guy's not bad. Just cover up the name, the stench of Patrick Corbin.
Agreed. Yeah. But I think also if you look at just this year's numbers, a lot of the underlying numbers, they still don't look like fantastic. But you look at last year, I mean, he's at a 43% hard hit rate against righties this year. That was at 53% last year. I would like to believe that regression is probably going to come there sooner rather than later. We'd also just got a comment about Cubs being postponed. Is that confirmed?
Yeah, I think we lost both Chicago games.
Honestly, I would rather have that than have a mid-game delay. And
you get your money back. You'll try again tomorrow.
Exactly. So maybe we'll put our heads together and find another ladder or something. I'm not hating the Bubic ladder. So
yeah, I threw a little bit on 7 and 8. I think. I just didn't want to pay the juice on 6.
Yeah,
it was like minus 140 or so on 6, and I think I'll get 6, but I'm not paying whatever that number was. Depends on where it's open. I only have one book here. You might be able to get a better number. But yeah, both Chicago games are gone. We're down to 11, and we might be down to 8 once we get Minnesota, Cincinnati. They're still hanging on. And that last we saw, I know Ross coming on here soon, red, orange, which to me is pretty daunting. The 2 orange games, both in Chicago, both are gone. Okay, let's move on. We have 3 more games to go. No lineups just yet from any of these teams. Cleveland, San Fran out here on the West Coast. Logan Allen versus Justin Verlander. Tough ballpark, obviously. Verlander coming back for his first start in a while. No rehab, but he did something on the side where he threw, 65 pitches or so?
Yeah.
And then Logan Allen's cheap. And again, good ballpark to throw pitches in. Tougher lineup these days with the addition of Rafael Devers. They gave him a bunch of standing ovations yesterday. Where do you have the Giants and the Guardians?
Yeah, Cleveland's going to be in the Mountain Dew category. Just not feeling overly confident in that that power production, especially in this ballpark. So we'll put them in the Mountain Dew category. And then San Fran, Logan Allen doesn't look all that great, especially when you look at some of last year's numbers. He's been a little bit better this year against righties than he was last year, but he's been struggling against lefties this year. So we'll put the Giants in the Sprite category. Probably not a team I get to the most, honestly. Obviously, Brewers and Cardinals are out of that tier now. Giants are probably the last team in that Sprite category. Maybe I have them slightly above the Rays because of the pinch hit stuff, but so not a team I'm super high on, but I do think that they're at least worthy of being in the Sprite category. I think you're on mute.
We got 2 more games to go. We got Framber Valdez to, let's see, ground ball, Savant. It is going to be scalding out there in parts unknown Sacramento. 97 is the temp, looks like, as far as first pitch, wind blowing out as well. However, Valdez keeps the ball on the ground, so it doesn't really matter so much if you're keeping it on the ground when it comes to homers. No lineups just yet here as far as the Astros and the Athletics either. Also, if you just strike dudes out, doesn't matter if the temperature is either. And this Athletics lineup, the projected one, has a fair bit of Ks also, especially, depending on if you get Kurtz, if you get Clark, keep an eye on that. Severine on the other side, he's, not what he once was, but it's going to be a pile of righties against him. Houston locked in for 9, rough bullpen, and, great weather situation. How do we see the Astros and the A's?
Yeah, you know what I'll give a replacement bet for the Mizorowski props, and we're going to take the under on 4.5 first 5 runs in this Oakland and Houston game. Doing the first 5 because you mentioned it, Oakland's bullpen is atrocious, but I do actually think that this game is being a little bit overrated. Obviously, I know the weather is fantastic, but I actually respect both these pitchers. Oakland, I'll put them in the Mountain Dew category because right now the teams that aren't are all rained out. So it's like they're playing, so at least that they're worthy of being at least rated, but they would be last of these Mountain Dew teams for Oakland. So like them in that spot. And then for Houston, we'll leave them in the Sprite category strictly because of that bullpen. I think maybe they'd be a little bit higher if I wanted to pick on Severino, but Severino's been good against righties. His power prevention numbers have been good against righties. The ground ball rate is lower since the start of last year against righties. Hard contact is much lower. Since the start of last year, only a 37% hard contact rate against right-handed hitting. So again, we've seen guys hit fly balls, pop-ups that end up out in this ballpark. No doubt about it. But in terms of this team, this Houston lineup is not one that I am all that afraid of. So that's just a team that I'm not super high on here. And I actually think they're probably getting a little bit overrated just because of, recent success for teams and even this team in this ballpark. So I like them in the Sprite category, but I do think they could do some damage against this bullpen. And that's why I like the under on that first 5 in this game.
Last game on the board, Padres, Dodgers, Emmett Sheehan expecting to be the opener. Rabowski is going to be the long man. At least that's the projection here. Stephen Kolek for the San Diego side. Dodgers, pretty big favorite, minus 217. We saw Pajes bang out a couple last night. Where are we looking at as far as San Diego and the Dodgers? Are the Dodgers having an opener every single night? I feel like that's their new thing, right? Do they have an opener essentially going forward unless Yamamoto's pitching? Is that the rule?
Yeah, it's like these guys can't catch a break with these injuries, and obviously Ohtani is going to be an opener, I would guess, at least a couple times a week. So it's definitely looking like it's something that's going to be the case. I do think they want Sheehan to be a regular starter at some point if he's going to be in the rotation. It sounds like he's going to be more than an opener. I do think he'll probably throw 50 pitches or so maybe get a few innings. I think he had a 3.5 strikeout prop, so I think he's more than an opener. And he's a guy that I was high on. I think it was 2 years ago when he was in the bigs regularly. So I think he's going to be fine. Not a guy I'm overly afraid of for the Padres, but Padres will be in the Sprite category as well. I know we're kind of overloading the Sprite category, but that's just where I'm going to have them. And then, Dodgers will be in the Diet Coke section as well. Kolek has been really bad against lefties this year, but last year we actually had a bigger sample. He was worse against righties. So I think for me, it's just a sample I'm not overly worried about. I think he's just neutrally probably a guy that's going to struggle to both sides of the plate. So pretty much fine with anybody in this stack. But I will say Conforto probably has some pinch hit risk. So if you're looking to tiebreak this Dodger stack, he'd probably be the guy that I would have as a tiebreaker. Oh, he's not? Okay, cool.
No, it's Kim and no Will Smith either. It's Russian.
Okay, cool. So that does hurt the lineup a little bit, just no Will Smith. But, you also have potentially the best hitter in the world right now, Andy Pajes there, who's getting bumped up in the lineup to the 6th spot. So still plenty of bats in this lineup. And Kim, I don't mind as a value option. So he at least adds some salary relief options around some of these expensive guys.
Yeah, it's Otani, Betts, Freeman, Teoscar, Muncy, Pajes, Edmund, Kim, and rushing. Sheehan, the opener. Robleski is expected to do the long man work. I'm going to recap the board here, Kyle. I'll give you enough time to come up with some Murray moonshots for the people. I know crunch time is knocking on the door. We got Roth. We have Dave and Kristi as well jumping in just a second. All right. Kyle did power rank his favorite soft drinks. Number 1 tier, he had Diet Coke. That's the Yankees, Arizona, the Dodgers. The Pepsi tier has Kansas City and the Braves. Sprite, the most popular tier. Tier number 3, that's Toronto, Baltimore, Tampa, the Giants, Houston, San Diego. Was TJ kind enough to kick out all the teams that got postponed? Because I was thinking I had to do that in my head. Thank you, TJ. I think that's what happened here. I was looking for those teams. I'm like, I have to do some editing, but I think they're all gone. Well done, TJ. And Mountain Dew tier number 4. Hot take. The chat did not appreciate this, but hey, this is Kyle's board. Make your own board if you disagree. That's Anaheim, Texas, Cleveland, and the Sacramento Athletics. And all the way at the bottom, LaCroix. We have Minnesota, Cincinnati, who we're waiting for a postpone. That's the reason why they're down there officially. If they somehow play, obviously those teams would adjust. But as we are right now, we're kind of expecting it to postpone unless Roth tells us otherwise. He'll be on in a second. And the Mets also hanging out with gross LaCroix. Did I give you enough time? Do we have some Murray moonshots?
Yes, we do. For number 1, I'm going with Ketel Marte here. I mentioned Eric Lauer not being a guy I am afraid of at all, and Marte has an excellent pitch profile matchup against the pitches that Lauer likes to throw. Throws a fastball and not a very good one, about 50% of the time to right-handed hitters, and then he also throws a cutter. Marte's had a ton of success against both of those pitches again from lefties over the past couple of years. So love Marte. Also like Mookie Betts to homer here. When looking at Kolek's pitch mix against righties, he likes to lead with a sinker. Since the start of last year, Mookie Betts 286 ISO against sinkers with a 8% barrel rate, 45% hard contact rate, and more importantly, against a sinker, he's able to elevate it only a 40% ground ball rate. So I like Mookie Betts to hit a homer as well. And then third pick, we'll go back to a Yankee here. I know they've been bad, but Kohanowitz has also been bad. So we're going to go with Ben Rice for a Yankees home run. Number 2 on mute.
Oh my God. Terrible job by me. You're supposed to close strong. We're not closing strong at all. Yeah. One more mute and I'm out. Is that the 3 mutes and you're out? That's how it goes. We did get a replacement Spidey Bomb as well. Muncy, Acuna, I think PCA was there before. Going to kick PCA out of the Spidey Bomb rotation. Spidey can't account for weather. He doesn't know what's going on. I'll tell you who does. It's Kevin Roth. It's crunch time. We got Roth. We have Dave. We have Kristi. Let's do it. Segue to crunch time right now.
All right, that's number 3.
I was just having some fun.
Damn.
I don't know. I wanted to be struck out, I guess. I don't know. I was feeling like an honorary Chicago White Sox or something. But Kevin, shout out to you for upgrading both Chicago's, right before the postponement. You knew that was coming to orange. Now we're kind of waiting for Minnesota, Cincinnati. What are they doing there? You upgraded that. You said, like, what's going on? Why don't they see what you see?
It's honestly, it's because it's Ellie De La Cruz bobblehead night, and I'm not even being sarcastic. Like, that is the only reason they didn't postpone it at 2 p.m. People are driving in from far away. It's like it's going to sell out. Everybody is going to this game. I don't know if they're going to be able to play or not, regardless. But it sure as hell seems like they want to, because it's De La Cruz bobblehead night.
That matters, right? To some degree. I don't think it's completely ridiculous to say that they want to get that game in because people have had this circled.
No, I really do think they would have postponed it earlier if not for that case. And now that they haven't, if they're really going to try this, okay, I'll walk through the scenarios here, but I am surprised that they're attempting it. I'll tell you that. Of the 3 postponements we've had, this game looks worse than all 3 of those. So
yeah, so that's what I guess we'll talk about it. But are they going to play wet for 3 hours? Are they going to wait for 3 hours and maybe it clears by midnight? Is that something they're considering? You must really want that bobblehead if you're hanging around till midnight. But
yeah, I just saw a tweet. There's rows and rows and rows of people in line to get in the stadium for their bobbleheads right now.
Well,
Wow.
they better hurry because
They
they're about
might
to
give
get
people their
smoked.
bobbleheads, then postpone it.
Yeah, well, they're about to get hit with like 80-mile-per-hour winds, so they better hand those out with the quickness.
How much are they on eBay? Is it maybe we're just going on eBay or something like that? But all right, Kyle, you got anything else for crunch time before you step aside? Roth, we'll add some more color as far as what's going on weather-wise, not just with Cincinnati, but elsewhere as well. I know most other stuff is pretty clear, except for Atlanta. We want to know about Atlanta. But Kyle, anything else before we move along?
No, I think I'm all set. Good luck, everybody.
Hit that like button, subscribe. Do not go anywhere because you got almost 50 minutes of content, 50 minutes of crunch time. Roth, the people want to know more about Elly De La Cruz bobblehead night. They want to know more about the potential scenarios. I want to know for sure. And then Chris Sale, no pressure, Roth, but Chris Sale's throwing baseballs tonight in Atlanta. So that might matter. That's going to matter. So I saw it's a little bit dicey. I'm curious to see. You're going to stay tuned, but it's all yours. Kevin, take it away.
Okay, good stuff. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's crunch time. It's two of the sharpest minds in the biz, helping to walk you through the slate. Dave Potts, Cheese is good in the house. What up, Cheese?
Well, not much, happy Wednesday or whatever. Kind of a weird day. They made it a little better by postponing a couple games, but still, this morning, I just decided I'm just going to write up everything and let people sort it out later. And I'll say, I did not play my normal volume tonight because I knew there was going to be a lot going on, and I'm on this show, and I wouldn't be able to play correctly. So I've got a few lineups, but not my normal amount because of all this stuff.
I'm honestly glad to hear that because as I was kind of getting ready for the show pregame, I thought, I think I'm going to be able to help the people, but I feel really bad for my co-hosts who are locked in this and just can't do anything now. So I'm glad to hear that you kind of toned down the volume a little bit and that Chicago came with those postponements as well. We got Kristi in the house as well. Kristi, always good to see you.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Great to see you guys too. Do a show with you. I know it's been a busy one, like you said, with the weather and big slate to begin with. So I'm glad I'm breaking it down with both of you.
Okay, well, let's start with the weather, and then we'll dive into all the content side of things: pitchers, hitters, home runs, stacks. You know the drill. I need to pull up the weather report just to kind of keep up with everything that's happened. White Sox and Cubs postponed. Detroit postponed, though that wasn't even on the slate. I think Washington is going to need a late start, though. Again, Cheese, I believe that's not on the slate either.
Correct.
So we'll get to. Let's start with Cincinnati, right? There is a massive line of storms moving in right around first pitch. And they either play it and immediately delay, which would be really dumb, or they just late start it. And they haven't announced the late start yet. But if they're trying to play this game, they'll need an immediate stoppage for, 90 minutes, 2 hours. Then there's about 2 hours of clearing where they can try to play. And then there's more storms. And those storms are around for a long, long time. Even if they play, I think it would be really tough to get 9 innings in. Maybe they could piecemeal it together. Cheese, are we interested in this? In that this is a game that no one's playing, right? Because of the weather.
Yeah. So the thing is, there's this would be one of the more popular games on both sides with no weather. Elly would be maybe the most popular play on the whole slate. Twins have some cheap bats and a Buxton that would all be popular. So yeah, I think if it even seems like maybe they play, I think you should get in on it a little bit. I can't, but I think you probably should for ownership because this would have been some chalk.
And I'm kind of in agreement that if they don't postpone this before first pitch, right, that tells me they're going to try to play. They've got the couple hours of clearing and they can see what happens behind that. The couple hours of clearing after the first round of storms, I should be clear. I don't think it's crazy to take some tournament stabs at this game. I'm not going to promise you 9 innings, but I think they'll get half a game in at least if they decide to try to play. And they could still. The other issue, Cheese, these are severe storms like this. 99% of the time when there are severe storms rolling in, a team does not want people in and out. They just don't do this. It's really bizarre, but I think if they don't postpone it before first pitch, get a little sprinkle, get a little taste, get a little taste of that. We'll go to Atlanta here, where I've been monitoring this little kind of storm shower just a little bit upstream of Atlanta. It's fading away, and my thought is that they can either briefly late start, or I hope they just play on time. I don't think there's anything heavy enough to stop play. So if you like pitchers in Atlanta, I say stick with it. In fact, stick with all pitchers in Atlanta. I'm on board with that.
I'd like to say this, Kevin, because I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. And as we know, the weather at my house is the weather in Atlanta in 2 hours. I think I'm safe, but it literally just thundered outside my house.
Okay. It's
that's my high-res model saying 2 hours from now there will be thunder, hopefully non-life-threatening thunder outside the stadium. But carry on. We're playing Chris Sale. Carry on.
I do see it. Yeah. The good news is that should all be fading as it moves like kind of into the Atlanta metro. Anything else I missed? New York, where
Tampa. I'd cut you off before you finish Tampa.
Tampa is probably fine. Like that's all we need to know on such a busy slate. And then New York is the last one where I think they've got a shot of a delay. Do we want pitchers there, Cheese?
No, that's a hitting game.
Great. Play it. I think even if you do happen to want like a random pitcher in New York, it probably works out okay. And they just play in some rain as things are fading away. That's it. I'm so glad they canceled those Chicago games. If I had two more, if I had to walk through two more games, I would just be a mess. Kristi, anything there that stands out to you in what I said? Anything you want me to go back over or anything that you're like, ooh, I know what I'm going to do?
Yeah, I do like your kind of information too on that Cincinnati game, because I know when I started out the day before we kind of knew where the weather was at, that was definitely a game that had a lot of interest. And so I like the fact that you're talking, get a sprinkle in that game, because I do think the upside is there. So definitely wanted to circle back and say, yeah, if we get a chance to get them at potential lower ownership, especially when we thought they were going to be the chalk, is going to be a little interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, that is my spiel for now. I'll keep a watch on all of those various games. We'll see if anything changes. We'll see if we get any announcements, really, whether that be Atlanta for a late start, Washington for a late start, or Washington doesn't matter. Sorry. Atlanta or Cincy. Let's talk about some pitchers. And Kristi, if you wouldn't mind leading us off here, what are we doing?
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different pitchers, a lot of different options to go. There's a lot at the high end. Obviously, Chris Sale, that was kind of an important one for us, because if you noticed, I think everybody has, Sale tagged. Great matchup, top pitching option on the slate. And I think, there's enough games out there where we can get some value, and we'll get into that when we kind of talk about the stacks. I mean, you're going to have some teams like Kansas City, Tampa Bay that have some cheap options there. We talked about, the Twins would have had some good value. They still may. So I think Sale is great at the top on both sites. A lot of interest. Framber Valdez too looks pretty darn good. He's been fantastic. Lots of K rate upside. Chris Bubic, I think, is a great option too. He comes at a little bit of a discount, especially over on DraftKings. So I do like that. Some of the cheaper options that kind of come into the mix, I know Taj Bradley is one. Definitely a volatile play, no question. But I mean, the upside is certainly there. So I don't mind getting to him in tournaments, and especially if you're playing 20 or so lineups, he's definitely someone I'd want exposure to. I think you can throw Trevor Rogers in the mix too. He's really cheap over on FanDuel. I think you could play him over there, especially if you're playing more than one lineup. I don't think you necessarily have to, but I don't mind getting to him either. And then, another guy I'd throw in is Logan Allen. I mean, he's just 6,000 on DraftKings. I don't mind him as a pitcher too over there. It allows you to get some of the bats, and there's a lot of good bats that we want tonight. We'll get into some of the stacks, but I mean, the Yankees look really, really great. Of course, they're expensive, along with the Dodgers, Arizona. Some of those stacks are going to be very expensive. Padres. So I don't mind getting some of those pitchers like Logan Allen, Trevor Rogers, Taj Bradley as some SP2 options, or even as an SP1 for GPPs over on FanDuel.
Okay, good stuff. Cheese, before I get to your pitcher notes, I want to give Richard in the YouTube chat a shout out. He says, I won the $12 single entry on DraftKings last night, in part because I took some of Beer's advice. Thank you for what you guys do. Your show is always great. Man, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you
for letting us know.
The beast of the night.
Dude, beast of the night never fails. Good stuff. We appreciate that. Happy to be here. Happy to help you out if you are enjoying.
I just wanted to point out that I know that it's called the Beast of the Night,
which Dean does not. Dean is the only person who is unaware. Cheese, what are we doing here pitcher wise? What are your faves?
Yeah, so let me, before I say the pitchers, kind of my big picture on the slate is, in smaller field stuff, I just like playing the top 3 pitchers, Sale, Valdez, and Bubic, and then playing cheap bats. In large field stuff where you're trying to finish first out of 10,000 people, probably the thing that's going to win is going to be 2 cheaper or random mid-tier pitchers who just happen to have the random big games with some of these big bats. But in like single entry stuff, I don't think I can pick that out. I want everyone else to chase the nonsense and feel like they have to have Judge and Ohtani, and sure. I just want my air quotes guaranteed points from my pitchers. So I'm spending up a lot. As far as the cheap stuff, like I guess Taj Bradley is the best thing, and I'm playing a little bit. I just don't like it. You know, that's kind of what Kristi was saying. Like, it's like you kind of have to say he's the best guy for like a salary saver on DK, but yeah. I don't know that that's true. Like, he just doesn't have it. Like he had it like once, like 3 weeks ago, and then it's gone again. I just don't know. So where I need
having
to go
it once 3 weeks ago is not having it.
Yeah, I don't know if that counts.
Right.
So I'm playing Logan Allen for my cheap guy. He's not any better, but he's actually cheap. And then the lineups where I need to go double cheap to get a couple of those, Dodgers Yankee stacks, I'm doing Luis Severino as my second cheap guy. So Severino Allen as a pairing, if I do want to go Judge, Ohtani, and Witt and all that stuff. But the vast majority of my lineups are Sale, Valdez, and Bubic. And probably half of my, 20, 25 lineups have Sale, Valdez.
Yeah. Brandon says, any Yarbrough, any Severino?
Yes, Severino is what I just said. I said Allen Severino is my cheap pairing.
I was reading.
Yeah.
What about
the people reading weren't listening either, so it's all good. Yeah, fair. Allen Severino are my cheap preferences, like under 7K.
Yarbrough? No.
I get it because the Angels strikeout numbers are pretty scary. I don't like Yarbrough personally. I'm playing some Angels.
Yeah. I'm seeing the Reds game is officially delayed.
So that means they're just now trying to squeeze some innings in that window later, maybe.
I guess, yeah.
Or they're trying to get people to come in, get their bobbleheads, and then they'll cancel it.
Like, honestly, like in the, if you're playing for the $15, $50K to first on DraftKings, play Ellie and Buxton in a couple lineups, but otherwise, I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I just don't know if you're going to get 9 out of that or any. I don't know. All right, let's talk about some of the bats and some of the stacks. Cheese. Let's get back to what we do. And you give out the bombs. You give out the teams. What do you like?
Most of them. The slate's tricky because, and everything's pretty appropriately priced. Like the Yankees are my favorite team, but they're of course pretty expensive. The Dodgers and the Diamondbacks are next, but they're pretty expensive. The Braves are next, and they're pretty expensive. So I'm playing more Royals, and I got some Giants in there. I've got Tampa, Baltimore, and Toronto. But for the most part, what I have is just picking out cheap bats that we're going to talk through the positions. I don't even really care if I get a stack or not. Like, there's a bunch of bats who are like 3,500-ish on DraftKings and down to like 2,500-ish on FanDuel that I think are quite playable on their own, regardless of stacking. So because of what I'm doing with the pitching, I care a little less about who my stacks are. Like, some things just turn into a stack because salary forces it to. But I would guesstimate that I can't even guess who my highest owned stack is.
Wow.
I don't think there's a team I have more than 2 full stacks of, probably.
Okay. Kristi, you have a favorite stack? Do you feel stronger about like, hey, this is my flag plant?
Yeah, I do have interest. I always have a lot of interest in the Dodgers. Now they're expensive. I do find myself with a little more Royals because they are cheap. They fit in well. I think, we saw Salvador Perez have a big game the other night. You've got some really cheap bats in that lineup. Jonathan India. Witt, of course, is the spend up guy. So I like that quite a bit for some savings. I do like some of the Giants bats in there too. Casey Schmidt, there's just some cheap plays in there. But yes, Yankees and Dodgers are my two favorite at the top. And I'd also throw the Diamondbacks in there too. I do like what she said, I think getting, Sale, Framber Valdez, getting, paying up for pitching is good. But I also, if you're playing more than one lineup, I do like getting exposure to some of those cheaper pitchers we talked about, and then trying to load up with as many bats as you can with the Yankees, Arizona, and the Dodgers. So yeah, I'm in agreement. I think I'd throw the Padres in there too. They grade out pretty well. They're showing up in a lot of optimals, and there's some cheap bats in that stack too. So would maybe throw them in there as well.
Okay, good stuff. Let's go around the horn, Kristi. You get to lead us off, and we begin with some catcher talk.
Yeah, so I think at catcher, I think Salvador Perez is going to check in, as the highest owned catcher on the slate. And, he's really cheap too over on FanDuel, where of course you don't need a catcher, but looks really, really good over there. So I like Perez. I think Yener Diaz is another good play. We haven't really talked a lot about Houston. Of course, they had kind of their explosion night last night against Sears, which we kind of expected could happen, but he still looks really good here. If you're looking to pay down at cheap options, Gary Sanchez has hit some home runs since he's been back in play. So certainly don't mind him to save some money. Elias Diaz looks pretty good as well. Drake Baldwin, I think is a fine option. He's a little bit cheaper over on FanDuel too. Talked a little bit about the Braves being a good option, but I do like Salvador Perez probably the best on both sites as one of the top options.
Yeah. Okay. Cheese, your thoughts?
Yeah. So this is the perfect example of what I was saying. Like there's a whole bunch of bats that I love right around 3,500, and it starts here. Perez, Ohapi in particular. And then you can go all the way down to Gary Sanchez for 2,400 if you want. Those are my main three. Everything's fine in a stack, but basically Perez, Ohapi, and Sanchez if I need to go cheap.
Was it Perez who went double yard last night?
Yeah, he had
Yes.
No, you're not making that up at all.
Yeah. Somebody on the show, I can't remember who, was like, he is a very, very good hitter, and even if he's been struggling, he is great, and I want to play him. And I bet whoever in the chat won a bunch of money probably listened to that. Maybe that was Beer who said that.
Probably. Yeah. Probably so. Yeah, he was like the key to the slate. There were several keys to the slate, but he was awesome.
Yep. Okay, first base, Cheese.
So, yeah, if you have money, Ohtani is fantastic, and Freeman is fantastic too. And I think Matt Olson is pretty fantastic. But I don't think you have to spend that. Vlad Guerrero is super cheap on FanDuel and pretty cheap on DK. Christian Walker's the one Astros bat I kind of like. We've got cheap guys like Kyle Manzardo against a 65-year-old man making his first start off the IL. I think that's and then Ben Rice, I think, gets a little lost in the mix. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Okay. Seems to be enough. Kristi, your thoughts at first?
Yeah, pretty similar. Yeah, at the top, a lot of interest in Ohtani and Freddie Freeman in those Dodger stacks. And of course, you can play Freeman at first base. You can play out Ohtani out in the outfield over on DraftKings. But like those guys, I'm in agreement too. Christian Walker is a guy that I have interest to on the Houston side. He's just 3,800. Vlad is way too cheap on FanDuel at just $3K. So I think he's just a great cash or just a great GPP one-off play. So lots of interest there. Ben Rice, of course, all those lefties in the Yankees lineup look very, very good. You can play Casey Schmidt there, so don't mind him as a one-off too. He's just 3,200 over on DraftKings. And then I'd maybe throw Gavin Sheets in there as well as somebody I don't mind as well. But yeah, Vlad is kind of the play that I really like the most over on FanDuel in particular.
Okay, very good. Second base, Kristi.
Yep. So for second base, guys that I like, probably going to be and popular too. Jonathan India. We talked about the Royals. There's quite a few cheap options here on both sites. Jonathan India is just 2,700 over on FanDuel, 3,400 on DraftKings. So I think he's going to look very good. Jose Altuve is going to carry definitely some ownership. I would also throw in, let's see, I think Curtis Mead. I mean, there's some pinch hit risk there, but he is pretty cheap on the Tampa Bay side, batting 2 tonight. Ketel Marte, if you're, trying to get the Arizona stack in there, you definitely don't want to leave him off. And I do like Arizona quite a bit tonight. So I think Marte is a great spend up option. Ozzie Albies, just 3,900. Talked about Atlanta. I do have quite a bit of interest in them. Yeah, other than that, those are the guys I'm looking to the most. The last guy I would throw in there is maybe Jake Cronenworth. He's still pretty cheap. San Diego does project pretty well tonight as well.
Okay, excellent. Cheese, your thoughts there at second?
Yeah, I think on DraftKings, I think you definitely save salary at second. On FanDuel, you don't really have to because Marte is only 38, and then you've got Jazz and Mookie Betts are second base eligible and not super expensive. So I don't so much love punting just for the sake of punting on FanDuel. Whereas on DK, I was going to play Willie Castro. I'm fine just pivoting to Jake Cronenworth there, but really I'm playing mostly two guys who are going to go 0 for 2 and then come out of the game, and I don't even care. It's Mead and Schneider.
Okay. Where are we at here? Cheese for third or no? Kristi second.
Oh, yeah. Cheese for third for sure.
Cheese for third.
I'll take third. Yeah, she can have second. I didn't even need to comment at all, really. So third is good. Third and short have some plays. And I like all these guys on their own. I mean, if it's in stacks, fine, but you don't have to stack San Diego to play Machado. You don't have to stack Atlanta to play Austin Riley. You don't have to stack the Yankees to play Jazz. You don't even have to stack the Dodgers to play Max Muncy. Every single one of those guys I love. I would say Machado is my favorite, followed by Riley, but it's all pretty close. And then if you have a little more money, I love Jose Ramirez. He's a guy who will get lost in the shuffle because of the salary. And then Eugenio Suarez is kind of right there too. So this is not the position where I want to punt. I want to play one of those guys.
Yeah. Okay. Kristi, your thoughts at third?
Yeah, pretty similar. Jazz Chisholm is probably my favorite, and Max Muncy. Again, the Dodgers, Yankees look very appealing. Austin Riley for the Braves, like him quite a bit. I'm trying to think if there's anything different here. Yeah, I'd maybe just throw Addison Barger in there. If you're getting a Blue Jays stack, he's just 3,700. But yeah, I probably have a lot of Max Muncy and Jazz Chisholm are the guys that I'm looking at the most here.
Okay, excellent. How about shortstop, Kristi?
Yep. So for shortstop, Bobby Witt is always going to look really, really good. We've talked about the Royals a little bit. He's the one good spend up option that always grades out really, really well. Mookie Betts, I like him a ton tonight. I think he's a great option. Again, we talked about the Dodgers. Bo Bichette. Pretty inexpensive really on both sites. And so I like getting some Vlad. I like getting some Bichette in my lineup tonight as kind of just a secondary stack. So like those guys quite a bit. We talked, I don't necessarily love Houston as a stack, but you've got Jeremy Pena in there who's been pretty good this year. So don't mind him. Gunnar Henderson always profiles pretty well, but he's not somebody I'm getting to a lot. I would say, Bobby Witt. Bogarts, I would say, is probably one of your cheap options that looks good in those San Diego stacks, just because he is 3,100 over on DraftKings. Other than that, that's about it.
Okay, then we get to go to Cheese for shortstop.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty similar. It's really a bummer that Ellie De La Cruz is questionable at best with that weather because he would have taken so much of Witt's ownership, Now Witt is like massive chalk. It's
So
still
play
hard
a
not
little
to play him. So that's this whole, what's that?
I said, so play a little Ellie.
Yeah, I mean,
Flip it on him. Oof.
So
I say that, and then I look at the weather. I'm like,
yeah. So the guy I'm flipping it to is Zach Neto. Basically the same price as Witt. So that's where I'm switching to if the rest of my lineup's a little too chalky. But I mean, definitely Witt is at the top. Yeah, all these mid-tier guys are okay, but there's none of it that I love. So I have a pretty crazy amount of Bobby Witt, honestly, or just do Neto or bets and just spend up. Gunner is okay. I don't know, like Taj Bradley versus Gunnar Henderson. One of them has to do something. They can't both be terrible. I mean, they can though. He'll just like Taj will get him to ground out, and then he'll hurt himself running to first. And they both lose. But theoretically, one of them has to do something. Ernie Clement. I said this in the museums. His surface numbers against lefties are good. They're like Aaron Judge, basically. But under the surface, it looks like the flukiest thing of all time. So I'm not really in now that he's up to 3,500. But I guess if you need it, it's fine.
Okay. Let's go to the outfield, Cheese.
Yeah, let's do. Whatever price tier you need to be in, you're there. It's
you're fine.
Definitely love Judge and Ohtani. Of course, that's some deep analysis for you. Some good, solid analysis. Play Ronald Acuna. If you feel like it, you're welcome. Tatis is still cheaper than those guys. I do like Angels, not so much as a stack, but I like them for just power hunting. Trout is fine, although I prefer saving money with Ward or even Adele. Trent Grisham looks pretty fantastic at 4K. Again, with the weather, like Buxton is a fantastic play, but it's just I have 0. If I wasn't on this show, I might have 1 at this point just for fun. Gurriel and Randall Grichuk are cheap plays for Arizona. You could do Christopher Morel. Mark Canha is another pure punt who's totally fine with some upside. Helio Ramos lost in the shuffle. That's enough. I don't know if there's more names. I'll let Kristi come up with some different names, but that's a lot of outfielders.
Yeah, Kristi, obviously we got the ones at the top, the Shoheis,
exactly.
the Judge, the Acunas.
Yep.
I took care of the heavy lifting and the
She's did the hard work there.
Exactly. I love it. 2 of my favorites are in that Yankees game. Cody Bellinger is probably one of my favorites. I really like him to actually hit a home run tonight. I like both him and Trent Grisham. They're both, decently priced on both sites. So those are probably 2 of my favorites. I do like Gurriel for Arizona. I think he's a nice cheap play and gets you exposure to the Arizona. So I don't even mind him as a one-off option if you need it, not necessary. But I do like the Arizona stack, but I do like him quite a bit. Christopher Morel too. I mean, he's had some upside where he's hit a couple of home runs and, in a game and such. And so for the cheap price tag that you get him at, I don't mind him as a cheap play. Gavin Sheets too. I do like him. Like both he and Jake Cronenworth, Xander Bogaerts are super cheap in that San Diego game, so I don't mind that play. Another cheap guy too, Schneider for the Blue Jays. I think you could throw him in there too. He's pretty cheap. I think he's batting 8. I know Cheese mentioned Mark Canha in Kansas City. Don't mind him, but yeah, there's some decent amount of cheap options. Randall Grichuk, but I'm probably a little bit overweight on guys like Grisham and Bellinger tonight in that Yankees game.
Okay, very good. Let's do some home run calls and make sure that people are getting the best deal in the industry. And you can find that, of course, right here at RotoGrinders. MLB DFS annual option, $425. However, we dropped the price of our Combo Pro product to match the MLB annual package. So you're getting all the sports for the price of one. And if you do 6 month instead of month by month by month, you're saving yourself about 35%, which you obviously should do. So make sure you're doing that. Sign it up. You got all kinds of stuff. Cheese, am I allowed to say NFL is right around the corner yet or no?
Because honestly, I don't see it.
All right.
It's
officially not yet.
It exists in the future.
Yeah, we're getting there. Okay. J3 says Roth's seamless transitions makes me want to purchase RG Premium. Good. Tell my bosses that. Let's do some home run calls. Kristi, what do you got for me? Who's hitting some bombs?
Yeah, well, I kind of mentioned him already, but I do really like Cody Bellinger tonight. I like those left-handed bats in the New York Yankees game, so I like him quite a bit. I know he's already a Spidey bomb, but Max Muncy is one of my favorites too. Got to have one of the Dodgers in there. And then on the cheaper side, I'm gonna go with Lourdes Gurriel in the Arizona game. He's cheap on both sites, but I like that Arizona stat quite a bit. I'm gonna go with Gurriel for the third.
Okay, very good. Cheese, you got some names?
High end and amazingly sneaky is Jose Ramirez.
That's a good one.
Somewhere in the middle. Let's go. There's so many home runs there. How about Eugenio Suarez? And then a cheap little Davis Schneider.
Okay.
Ooh, I like that.
Trying to get out my final tweets and updates here for the people. And okay, with that, let's answer some questions. Let's see. We've got about 15 minutes, I believe, until first pitch. And we like to start in the RotoGrinders Discord. That's where the cool kids hang out. That wasn't like I'm sending you a message throat clear. That was an actual throat clear, to be fair. You'll know if it's a sending you a message one. Scroll down. Bill T says, "Hey, Cheese, doesn't tonight look like several one-offs and no stacking could be profitable?"
Yes.
Okay. DKGPP, Kristi, this one's for you. Steer or Lane Thomas for a one-off punt?
Well, Steer's in that game that we're talking about with Cincinnati. I guess, if you're looking to risk it, you could throw Steer. Although if I'm looking to play that game, I'm probably going to do a full stack in a lineup just to get exposure to the entire game. So I'd probably lean Thomas, even though I do like Steer better.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I would prefer as well. Is like if you're going, go all in.
Just go all in.
Yeah,
yep, exactly.
If you're going, go.
Yep.
Kristi, right back to you from Alex. 3,800 last piece DK cash. After swapping out Witt, are we okay with Volpe in DK cash or just keep Witt? So basically, I guess it's between Volpe and Witt. I realize they're different prices.
Yeah. I think I'd keep Witt for cash. I do. I think Volpe's batting 7 tonight, so I think I'd stick with Witt just because he is going to be popular without Ellie De La Cruz in there. So I think I'd take the points there. Okay,
great. Achilles says, "Hey, Cheese, DK single entry. Caratini, haven't heard that name much. Caratini, Dubon, or Sal, Pal, and Mead?"
Sal and Mead.
Very good. M. Rio says, "Cheese, I got one for you here. Rogers, Bubich, or Bradley Sale?"
Bradley Sale.
Alex says, "Thank you, Kristi."
Awesome.
You're welcome. Yeah. Where are we? FanDuel single entry pitcher. Did we talk about that, Kristi? FanDuel single entry pitcher. Who you like?
Yeah, I do think Chris Sale. Cheese talked quite a bit about that. Just locking in a guy like Sale or Valdez, but my choice is Sale at the top. So I think he's just a great single entry play tonight.
Okay, Cheese. I think there were 3 dudes who you liked in the pitching pool on DK. Is that for FanDuel too?
It is. I think I'd go Valdez. Just he's cheaper than Sale, but really I just think they're both so good, and Sale gets more of the ownership.
Yeah. Okay. Scrolling down. Here we go. Kristi, coming to you. Neto, Witt Jr. or Bettis? Is that Betts or Bettis? Yeah. Betts, probably.
Betts, probably.
Yeah.
Like for tournaments, I'm assuming. I actually go Betts there just because Witt is going to carry a lot of ownership, and I like Mookie Betts quite a bit tonight too. So I would go Betts.
Okay. Witt Jr. Yeah, I think I got that right. Yeah. Was that a TJ question? What is TJ?
TJ. Oh, Jerome Bettis.
Please pay no attention to them north of the border right now.
That's right.
I was so confused.
Jerome Bettis is a former NFL player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bus.
Yeah. Well, you take the bus, obviously, every time. Do you like Sale over Bubich, even with the weather concerns in Atlanta? I think the weather concerns are low enough so that it's not a concern. Baby girl, if you're going to say who you got the clothes on. Sorry about that. It was, do you like Sale over Bubich, even with weather concerns in Atlanta, which I've roughly dismissed as concerns? So we do like Sale, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what else we've got. Cheese, do you have to... Crazy says, Cheese, do you have to be a person of a certain age to enjoy butter pecan ice cream?
Ooh.
I can actually speak to that in a lot of ways. I don't know how much time we have. It gets better as you age. Like each decade of your life, you will like it more. But personally, I started eating it when I was like 17. So I would say you have to be a person of a particular age, like 17 or more, probably, to like it.
Yeah, I think that checks out. I think
it's better. It's better now.
Yeah. Let's see. If you've got any questions, get them in. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, by the way. You've got Spidey Bomb scrolling at the bottom. It's not too late to get another. Jazz at plus 400. Jazz at plus 400. Muncy at plus 430. Acuna at plus 375. And Walker at plus 400 as well. Any thoughts on Nolan Jones, Kristi?
Yeah, I guess he's fine. I mean, I don't have a lot of interest outside of really probably Ramirez as a one-off in Cleveland tonight, but yeah, it's fine for a cheap option.
Okay. Let's see what else we've got here. Mark says, hey, Cheese. He actually says, yo, chat. But Cheese, you are yo, chat for this question. Yo, Cheese, is 38.5 fantasy score over Framber Valdez a good bet? Now, I don't know what.
I don't even know what fantasy scoring they use for prop betting. I don't do prop betting, so I prefer not to answer that.
Okay, that seems like a good choice because I don't know that either.
It's usually same as FanDuel scoring, and so based on our projections, both the BAT and RotoGrinders would have Valdez under that total.
Yeah, if it's FanDuel scoring, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my initial instinct is I just wouldn't bet that either way. But again, I'm not the person to ask, so I would go with what TJ says.
Okay, very good. Cheese, will paying up for both pitchers and using Ketel Marte make my lineup different enough to win a large field DK tournament? Also, when talking in general, how many lineups do the sharp minds assume people are using? Example, when I said get a sprinkle of the Reds game. Those are two different questions. First, paying up at both pitchers and using Marte.
Yeah, three things. First of all, Blink's avatar is blinking, and dude's my hero. He must have won something. He got it done.
It didn't blink.
Look at it. Wait for it.
Oh,
it goes,
nice,
baby.
Good job. He's back.
Okay. Yes, paying up for both pitchers plus Marte is different enough. How many lineups do I assume people are using? I don't. I assume everybody's different. Yeah. So I can't really. I would need to talk to everyone individually and look at their exact portfolio to say exactly what I think they should do with Sprinkle. But roughly, I would say in 20 lineups, I would do one with an Ellie or a Buxton, if not a full stack, but like one per 20, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. DK Cash, last piece, Kristi, this one's for you. Any interest in this Trenton Brooks character for a punt? Who is Trenton Brooks?
Yeah, it's for the Padres. I see the lineup came out. What does he bat? And he's min price, I believe, too. Yeah, I mean, I guess he's fine if it allows you to get you everything else that you're looking to get. Yeah, he's fine for a punt.
Yeah, okay. Aaron says, what is Roth's daughter's favorite ice cream at the moment? This is a tragedy. And maybe this happens to all parents. It's whatever the most colorful ice cream is. And those are always the worst. Nobody wants.
Kids love bubblegum until they get a little older. God. I remember actively loving bubblegum until I discovered actual good flavors of ice cream, and then I never went back.
Yeah, it's like bright blue and purple and pink, and I'm like, no, please, any other flavor, please. No, only the crappy flavors every time. 100% chance. Let's see. Cheese, Wayne's World, yay or nay?
Another interesting question. Depends how much time we have. So for me, it's so nostalgic. It's a yay, but in reality, it doesn't actually hold up like some other things. So if you liked it at the time, yay. If you didn't, like, don't start now.
Yeah.
Good answer.
Excellent. Let's see where are we at. Got a few more questions coming in. Kristi, let me hit you with some of these. Blackburn or Kolich? DKGPP, Kristi.
Not really playing either, but I guess if I had to pick one, probably Kolich.
Okay, very good. Just looking at New York. Okay, things look good. FanDuel, Kristi, Diaz Caminero or Muncy Edman?
Muncy Edman.
Okay. Oh, Cheese, FanDuel, large field GPP. By the way, we're 6 minutes or so until lock, so we still got a little bit of time. Olsen or Riley?
That would be Olsen for me.
Yeah. Bill says for this old guy, Bill's a seasoned gentleman. Best ice cream is mint chocolate chip. Kristi, you on board with mint chocolate chip or no?
I like mint chocolate chip. Yeah. In fact, we just had some ice cream and stuff at work today, and mint chocolate chip was one of them. It was very, very good.
I have nothing against it, but it would never be one that I would personally order. When I get it,
Yeah, well, and I can say the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Probably not one I ordered, but it was very good.
Yeah. Jimmy asks, okay, what's the latest update with the New York weather? The game is going to play. I increasingly think that rain moves in 4th to 6th inning and they just play through it. That is my best guess scenario, is that they play with no delays and they play through the shower, but I wouldn't be fully shocked if there is a delay. And that's the best I can do for you right there. Let's see. Do you like a Kansas City stack for a 70-person entry? Sure. Kristi? Yeah, you down?
Yeah. No, I do. I think there's, ownership will be decently spread out. I think even with I'm fine with that.
Okay. Let's go to Chris. Cheese, should I avoid Morel and Mead as both could get pinch hit for early?
I'm not avoiding them. Like, they're cheap enough that it's okay. Like, Mead especially is very likely to get pinch hit for, but for $2,500 at second base, like, who cares? Morel may or may not get pinch hit for, but I like him anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Cheese, thoughts on Jansen?
Assume Danny Jansen, the catcher, I guess. Give me a second to think about that. He's fine. I like Gary Sanchez as much, and he's $500 cheaper, and I like Salvi and Ohapi more for just a little more, but he's in that mix.
Okay. TJ says 3 weeks away to the day from when Superman drops in theaters. You're welcome, everyone. Has there been a good Superman movie in my lifetime?
Everyone was talking about Superman in chat, so that's why I brought it up. Like, I was responding to the Superman ice cream talk. But probably in your lifetime, yes. In my lifetime, no.
Okay, that stung. That was unnecessary.
Really, yeah, that was rough, man. Isn't it disappointing, TJ? Like, of all the superhero movies, and there's so many, how have they not made a great Superman movie recently? Like,
yeah,
so many of them have been.
It will be this one.
Okay.
The last one I actually do think was a good movie, but just not a super, like Man of Steel, I think was a fine movie, but just not at all about the character of Superman. Like, they just was a different person. But this one's going to be really good.
Okay, I'll give it a shot, TJ.
So this is the guy running the new like DC Studios, the movie studio that is making all the Superman, Batman, etc. movies in the future, is the guy who wrote and directed all the Guardians of the Galaxy movies.
Oh, that's promising.
Yeah.
Good note.
I'm in.
I got a few more questions before we bounce out of here. We're 2-3 minutes until lock. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, by the way. I know it seems stupid, but it really does help us out. Gets us to more eyeballs, so please do. Jorge Mateo says, Kristi, Tatis Cam Smith or Rooker Gurriel? DK Cash.
DK Cash?
Yeah.
What was the first one more time?
Yeah, it was Tatis Cam Smith or Rooker Gurriel.
Gurriel. I think I'm going Rooker Gurriel.
Okay. Joey Rock says, Cheese, DK GPP, Elias Diaz with a Pods mini stack or Sanchez one-off? Thank you.
I mean, that's close enough. If you have like 2 or 3 other Padres, I guess Diaz. But in any other scenario, I prefer Sanchez.
Okay. How much Severino out of 150 would you have, Cheese?
I'd probably have more than I would think I would have. Like, I'd probably have like 30 of them.
Okay. Oh, boy, a lot of ice cream talk. A lot of ice cream. Here we go. I got a question. Cheese approves of that. Coach B says, Kristi, what are your thoughts on a giant stack?
Yeah, I don't mind that. There's some good pieces in there, I think. So I think that's a sneakier stack for sure.
Okay. Boy, Astros lineup just dropped. I don't know if there's anything different there, but Maryi just letting us know. Yeah, guess what? We did all the things we came here to do. I think we've caught up on all the questions. We did it. Chris, do you have a favorite superhero? You know, TJ obviously is big in the superhero scene.
I
wanna
know
your favorite superhero.
You want to know mine? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Oh gosh, that's something I hadn't thought about in a long time. Gotta go with Wonder Woman, right?
Hey, nice call. Cheese, do you have a specific favorite?
Yeah, by far it's Batman.
Yeah.
And secondly, by far it's Iron Man, because I love, like, they don't actually have superpowers. It's like theoretically, futuristically possible if you just you have. It's obviously wildly far-fetched, but like, to me, that's a different level than things having to go supernatural to outer space to get your powers. Like, like super rich people do exist.
Yeah,
right. They don't all just climb up a mountain and become the best fighter of all time, but it could know what I'm saying.
Yeah. I too would choose Batman, but I wonder how much of that is just that starting, I don't know, whenever Batman Begins came out, they started having awesome Batman movies, and I got into it.
That trilogy is, to me, the best movie trilogy of all time. Like, I'll take that over anything over.
It's so good.
Ever.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Yeah. And people sleep on Batman Begins, but that movie is freaking phenomenal.
So good.
Loved it.
I might watch all 3 movies tonight and not even sleep before the music.
I may join you. All right. Hey, guess what? That is what we came here to do. We did the things, and now we get to clear out. So for Cheese and for Kristi and for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. TJ likes to point out he is the production crew. That is true. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. You have been